Something from the song. I should have just gone for no, but
Also, no, all good.
so yeah, I mean, say focus more on new ideas, not just I have nothing new to say. No, that's good fact. You want to actually there is something. Makes sense. Both of them must be there. Which is what we're both in the US. He said something like I think that makes sense. Now it's not just buildings outside. They do a very good job. That's the reality. Yeah, no, not a problem. I'm in a meeting to start in 2 minutes, so I thought I'd catch you. What's the matter? Okay. That's good. That is good. Mail is not being forwarded. We were away much of the summer, but we had, at least in August, we had someone come every week to pick up the mail and take it up in the car. I didn't see anything, but, you know, why don't you just resend it? No, 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 that wasn't the, maybe in the room. Okay, good. I thank you for the, attention to that. No, no, it's Tomorrow and then Wednesday and Sunday. Starts tonight. First working day. Netanyahu was speaking Friday. Oh, okay. Good. Good man. Inside track. When's the heads of state? Thursday? Wednesday, fourth, it is in the morning. Yes, sir. Chiba. That's one of the yes.
I think that's because they want you there. Because they want you there that you can provide some change.
Yeah.
Quality control purposes. Good. Nice to see you.
Look nice to see you.
It's nice to see everybody.
I'm a season ticket holder.
Yeah, I know. it's always a special greeting for Joe because it's hard for a Yankees fan to come into this room. So you won't say anything. No, I don't. I don't want. I don't want to hear from you. I just want you to hear from me. All right. Good afternoon. Tomorrow is the start of the General Assembly. Yes. Just to give you a little update on numbers, because I know you like them. We expect about 193 delegations in total, with approximately 89 heads of states, 5 vice presidents, 1 crown prince, 43 heads of government, and Senor?
How many heads of government?
43 heads of governments, 1 crown prince, 5 vice presidents, 89 heads of states, and we have the more detailed breakdown if you're interested. Also, we have about 1,642 bilateral meetings that have been scheduled in the lobby of the General Assembly building, where the temporary meeting booths are. So we're glad to see that member states will use this time for meetings and speaking to people they may not usually speak to. Tomorrow, the opening of the 80th session of the high-level session of the General Assembly, the Secretary General will address world leaders. His speech will be a stark wake-up call to the world, framed around the need to make clear decisions in this decisive time. It will be an appeal for renewal and the urgency of action and moral leadership. He will call out the impunity and the lawlessness that threatens the world order. His speech will be framed around a fundamental question that he will pose to world leaders. What kind of world do we want to choose to build together? The Secretary General will speak of the unique challenges facing our world and the organization itself, and point out that we have our work cut out for us, as our ability to carry out that work is being cut from us. He will lay out 5 critical choices facing humanity: peace, dignity, climate justice, technology in the service of humanity, and a stronger UN. He will also remind world leaders that it is not enough to know that what the right choice is. We must have the courage to act. He will also recall that his own experience growing up in the dictatorship of Portugal, and underscore the importance of never giving up. We will share the Secretary General's remarks under embargo later today. Also want to remind you that because of the many competing events and papers and reports you will have to file, we will not be briefing Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday unless there's some major breaking news in addition to all the breaking news we have to deal with, and we will be back in this room on Friday. This morning in the GA Hall, the Secretary General delivered remarks marking the 80th anniversary of the United Nations. 8 decades ago, he said this organization was established to become the place where all nations, whether large or small, could come together to solve problems that no country could solve alone. And yet, he added, at this moment, the principles of the same organization are under assault as never before. The Secretary General listed a number of challenges facing the world today. To address these challenges, we must not only defend the UN, he said, but we must also strengthen it. Those remarks were shared with you. This afternoon, the Secretary General will speak at a conference on the two-state solution, co-sponsored by France and the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. He's expected to say that the situation on the ground is intolerable and it is deteriorating by the hour. He will also welcome the measures that many member states are taking to galvanize support for the two-state solution, including pledges to recognize the state of Palestine. The Secretary General is to emphasize that we must recommit ourselves to the two-state solution before it is too late, a solution in which 2 independent, democratic, viable, and contiguous and sovereign states are mutually recognized and fully integrated in the international community. He will also stress that statehood for the Palestinians is a right and not a reward, and denying statehood would be a gift to extremists everywhere. Turning to the situation on the ground in Gaza, our colleagues at the Office of the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs tell us that as Israeli military operations continue across the Gaza Strip, the Palestinian Civil Defense said that over the last 10 days, it carried out more than 50 rescue recovery missions. Health services are also under severe strain, as we've been telling you. Today, the Ministry of Health in Gaza called on people to donate blood amid severe shortages in hospital. Once again, we have to reiterate that civilians and civilian infrastructure must always be protected and should never be a target. Civilian sites must also never be used to shield military operations. OCHA tells us that hostilities have disrupted nutrition services in Gaza Governorate, where famine was confirmed over 1 month ago. Partners working in nutrition report that almost half of the treatment centers are reportedly closed. This hampers efforts to detect new cases and maintain treatment of hundreds of children. On Friday, the Ministry of Health said 162 people, including 32 children, have died from starvation and malnutrition since the famine was confirmed. Meanwhile, the growing number of people moving to the south is putting mounting pressure on our already strained services available in Khan Yunis and Deir al-Bala, where conditions are dire, as we've been telling you. Our partners say that people are squeezed in tents along the beach, crammed in school shelters, sleeping in the open on the rubble of destroyed buildings and houses. Although aid organizations are overstretched, we continue to serve those in need as much as possible. Today, 7 out of 12 humanitarian missions coordinated with Israeli authorities were facilitated, while our teams managed to collect health supplies from Karim Shalom. 2 missions to retrieve food cargo were denied. Meanwhile, our partners at 4 monitoring points tell us that desperate families are leaving Gaza City, with many moving towards Khan Yunis and Deir al-Bala in the south, where there is very little space to accommodate new arrivals and displacement. Displacement sites, as I've said, are already overcrowded, and those who remain in the north desperately need humanitarian support. As you can imagine, the Secretary General has delivered a number of remarks today. Also this morning, he spoke at the high-level meeting to mark the 30th anniversary of the 4th World Conference on Women. He said that 30 years ago, the world came together to affirm that the rights of women and girls are not separate, secondary, or negotiable, and that they are human rights. The Beijing Declaration on Platform for Action is the most ambitious global political commitment on women's rights ever achieved, but progress has been slow and it has been uneven. Mr. Guterres added that hard-won gains are now under attack and a wave of misogyny is rolling across the world. Let us be clear, he said, equal rights and opportunities are not partisan issues. They are global imperatives and the foundation for peace, prosperity, and progress. In every region, in every country, in every community, women and girls are fighting for their rights. The UN will stand with them. All leaders should be able to do the same, he added. His full remarks were shared with you. Preview for this afternoon, he will also deliver remarks at the SDG Moment event and is expected to stress that it's a time to intensify our efforts to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals, that we must regroup, we must recommit, and we must refocus, emphasizing that we need to keep the promise of the SDGs. And this morning, our colleague Melissa Fleming, the head of the Department for Global Communications, opened the SDG Media Zone on the Visitors Plaza. You guys should drop by if you haven't already done so. In a welcoming message, the Secretary General also underscored that the space will be a platform for ideas, a catalyst for action, and a launch pad for hope. And I would encourage you to drop by. They have some absolutely great programming. A few minutes ago, we issued a message from the Secretary General in support of the global initiative to galvanize political commitment to international humanitarian law on the eve of the high-level week. In his message, he said that around the world, international humanitarian law is being trampled. Civilians are paying the price. All parties to the conflict must live up to their obligations and respect these life-saving rules. It is urgent for the global initiative to galvanize political commitment to international humanitarian law. Also this morning, Security Council, as you know, held a meeting on threats to international peace and security. Briefing members was our friend Miroslav Janša, the Assistant Secretary General for Political Affairs. He said in his remarks that on 19th September, according to Estonian reports, 3 Russian MiG-31 fighters entered up to 10 kilometers inside Estonia's airspace for about 12 minutes. in violation, obviously, of Estonian airspace. Mr. Jenša noted that this latest development follows reported violations by Russian drones in both Polish and Romanian airspace. Mr. Jenša stressed that violations of sovereign countries' airspace are unacceptable, and again urged all concerned to act responsibly and to use all available channels and to take immediate steps to de-escalate tensions and prevent further risks of regional instability. Excuse me. His remarks were shared with you. Meanwhile, on the ground in Ukraine, our humanitarian colleagues tell us that hostilities over the weekend and early this morning killed and injured several civilians across the country, including health workers and emergency responders. That's what the local authorities are telling us. Strikes hit two major cities in Dnipro and Zaporizhzhia, as well as frontline communities in areas further from the front line. They damaged homes, schools, and other civilian facilities. Civilian casualties were also reported in Chernihiv, Donetsk, Kherson, several other regions. Following these attacks, aid organizations mobilized support for first responders and municipal services, and emergency teams were dispatched to where they were needed. We, along with our humanitarian partners, continue to deliver aid through convoys in frontline areas. On September 19th, an interagency convoy reached the Bilozherka community in Donetsk, one of the hardest hit areas following the recent escalation in hostilities. The convoy delivered medical supplies, solar lamps, and other essential items. Moving a couple of African-related notes. In the Central African Republic, we issued over the weekend a statement about the tragic incident in that country that happened on September 16th, and we had mentioned to you last week. The Secretary General said he's deeply saddened by the death of 4 UN peacekeepers from the Republic of Congo serving in our peacekeeping mission in Central African Republic. 2 others were injured when their armored personnel carrier fell into the Umbela and Poko River while driving from Bangui to Bambari, and this was a routine resupply convoy. Another peacekeeper remains missing, sadly, as of today. Secretary General extends his heartfelt condolences to the families of the fallen peacekeepers, as well as to the government and people of the Republic of Congo, and wishes a speedy recovery to our injured colleagues. And in Sudan, our humanitarian colleagues are warning of a sharp decline in the humanitarian situation in El Fasher, which is, you know, in the besieged capital of North Darfur. Where deadly attacks and fresh displacements are compounding the suffering of civilians. The International Organization for Migration reports that about 7,500 human beings fled Abu Shuk displacement camps and parts of El Fasher town. That was just in a few days. That's between the 17th and the 19th of September. All of this is being done while there's a heightened sense and reality of insecurity. And you will have seen that over the weekend, the Secretary General expressed his grave alarm at the rapidly deteriorating situation in El Fasher, warning of growing risks to civilians trapped in the area. Also, Tom Fletcher, our humanitarian chief, warned that El Fasher is on the brink, with civilians besieged in living in famine conditions. This comes after Friday's devastating attack on a mosque, which was reportedly carried out by the Rapid Support Forces, in which over 70 people were killed. UNICEF says at least 11 of the fatalities were children. That's what according to initial reports. This violence continues to have a devastating impact on our humanitarian response efforts. Local aid organization reported to us that they've been forced to suspend operations in El Fasher, in the area of El Fasher last week due to the security situation, which is unraveling. The organization had been providing health, water, hygiene support, and for several thousand people, despite the tightening siege. On top of that, seasonal flooding throughout the country is increasing humanitarian needs, and across the Darfur region, cholera continues to spread. The outbreak in South Darfur is expanding, with over 5,200 suspected cases and more than 250 deaths reported since May. Yesterday, we and our partners launched a large-scale cholera vaccination campaign across Darfur, aiming to reach about 1.9 million people. First phase is underway in localities in South Darfur, with plans to expand to East and North Darfur states, including Tawila, which is hosting a lot of the people who fled El Fasher. And with heads of states gathering in New York, the Secretary General calls once again for concerted international action in support of the people of Sudan. Mr. Lamamra, as personal envoy, stands ready to support genuine efforts to end the conflict and establish an inclusive political process for the people of Sudan. And moving south to South Sudan, where the political situation is and humanitarian are tense, we've seen reports that the first Vice President, Riek Machar, and other individuals today appeared at a special court hearing in Juba. Our peacekeeping mission there tells us it is following the proceedings, reminding us that the judicial process must adhere to international standards of fairness and transparency, with full respect for the rule of law and for human rights. On the ground, the mission reports fresh clashes between South Sudan People's Defense Forces and alleged white army elements in Nasir County, which is in Upper Nile State. These clashes have reportedly resulted in casualties and injuries. The mission is verifying the information and reiterate the call for all peace partners for an immediate cessation of hostilities and strict adherence to the revitalized peace agreement. And lastly, and closer to these shores, but also a pretty dramatic situation, that is in Haiti, where the Office of the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs tells us that violence by armed groups continues to fuel displacement. According to IOM, armed attacks on the commune of Verret in the Artibonite department have forced more than 3,000 people to flee their homes since September 15th. Most of those displaced have sought shelter with host families. The area already experienced similar attacks and displacement 2 months ago. Meanwhile, on September 18th in Northwest, armed groups attacked the commune of Bassin Bleu, setting fire to the police station and the only hospital in the area. According to authorities, a teacher was also killed in the attack. With no access to basic services and under direct threat, about 2,000 people had to flee their homes. These latest incidents highlight the continued spread of violence across different parts of the country, severely impacting lives and property, and further weakening access to essential services such as health and education. OCHA says working closely with our humanitarian partners, continue to monitor the situation and coordinate the response to ensure that assistance reaches those most in need, despite the very challenging conditions for our colleagues to work. Mr. Klein.
Yes, yeah. Excuse me. You mentioned in your remarks regarding the Secretary General's address on the Palestinian-Israeli conflict and the two-state solution, that Palestine has the right, is not a privilege, to have its own state. But would he also believe that with that right comes responsibilities, and would he favor certain preconditions, such as release of all the hostages, Hamas laying down all of its weapons, and a unified government as preconditions to recognition as an independent state?
Let's take it from let me I was going to say let's take it from the beginning, but I forgot the beginning of your question. But yeah,
I'm trying to remember myself, but no. The beginning of the premise of the question is you had said, I guess paraphrasing the Secretary General, that that the statehood is for the Palestinians is a right, not a privilege. And what I asked before laying down
now,
the preconditions is whether that also should mean that
Yeah.
there's a responsibility that goes with
well,
the right.
let's first of all, every member state of this organization has rights and has responsibilities, and the responsibilities of every member state of this organization is enshrined in the Charter, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, and the body of internationally agreed to international law. Since the beginning of this phase of the conflict, the Secretary General has been very clear in the need for Hamas and other Palestinian armed groups to release all their hostages unconditionally, right? He wants to see an end to this conflict. He wants to see more humanitarian aid. He wants to see the Israeli hostages released, and he wants to get us back on a track to a two-state solution. Peoples have a right to self-determination, and also for many years, this Secretary General and others have been calling for a unified Palestinian government and for member states to support a unified Palestinian government.
The question, though, is whether the release of the hostages, Hamas laying down its arms, and a unified government should be preconditions for recognition of Palestine as a state. Otherwise, it appears to be rather symbolic and nothing else.
I mean, people are saying it's a gift to. We've seen comments from people saying it's a gift to Hamas. I mean, from what I know of the Hamas charter, Hamas is not calling for a two-state solution. So it is for the Secretary General, two states living side by side in peace and security is a necessity for the peaceful future of the region. Deji, and then.
Yeah, just also on Palestine, we know that yesterday 4 countries recognized state of Palestine, which made the number of the countries to more than 150. But Prime Minister Netanyahu said this is just like you said, the reward to terrorism. But what is more importantly is he said that in the West Bank there will be no state of Palestine. If this is the reaction to the recognition, do you worry this will actually deteriorate the situation in the West Bank?
I think we have to be determined in achieving the goal that we want to achieve, and we cannot let ourselves be distracted by threats and intimidation.
And sorry, 2 more questions. One question related to this. It seems to me Israeli government, they were implementing policies that is weakening the PA, while on the other hand they say PA is too weak to have a state. So what is the reaction of the Secretary General?
Okay. Deji, we've gone through this before. You're asking questions that should be asked of an analyst. I mean, the Secretary General's position. I'm not going to analyze and give you color commentary. The Secretary General's position is clear. He supports the Palestinian Authority. The Palestinian Authority is recognized here as a permanent observer, and we're looking and working for a two-state solution, those 2 states being Israel and Palestine.
Okay, one last question. This one is difficult. Today we have several statements from this SG talking about the women's rights, talking about the establishment of this very organization for 8 decades, talking about the two-state solution, and SDG as well. So which does the Secretary General consider the most important item?
Look, we will leave we make the statements, we leave it up to you to rank them. Yes, ma'am, if you could introduce yourself. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Naomi Lim and I'm with the Washington Examiner. So tomorrow marks President Trump's return to the UN after many years not being here. I'm just wondering what the Secretary General thinks of this moment, particularly when the US is threatening to withdraw, not only political support from the UN, but also financial support as well.
Well, I mean, I can tell you the Secretary General very much looks forward to his meeting with President Trump. Yesterday, he received the credentials of Mike Waltz, the new permanent representative. They had a very good discussion, a very solid and deep discussion on the UN, U.S.-UN relations, and we look forward to having President Trump, to hosting him, and to welcoming him back to the United Nations.
So no concerns about what it means for the future of the
Well,
organization?
I mean, I think that it is. Frankly, they would be more concerned if he wasn't here. Farnoosh.
Thanks, Steph. Can you give us a status now that we are in officially UNGA week? What is the status of Brazil's president's visas? Are there any restrictions that you guys have been made aware of? Are there anyone that you expected to be here that may not, that you've been told could not come?
My understanding, there are a number of delegations that have some issues with visas for their delegations, with members of their delegation. The only head of delegation that I know of that is not getting a visa is President Abbas. Abdelhamid, and then we'll go to, and then, yes, go ahead.
Thank you, Steph. Don't you see that this two-state fanfare and recognition of Palestine is distracting attention from the genocidal war in Gaza? 37 Palestinians were murdered from the morning until now, and no one talked about it.
Abdelhamid, I think we all need to be able to do two things at once. We need to deal with the reality of what is going on the ground, and I think I gave, like I do every day, a pretty grim picture of that reality, but that cannot distract us from the goal of peace and stability that we want for Israelis and that we want for Palestinians, and that's exactly what we're doing.
My second question, I don't know if the SG aware of some steps Israel taking in the West Bank, including constructing gates at every single village all around the West Bank. Like Ramallah has about 150 gates around it, and every village has a gate, which is, this is recent. So it's preparing for something coming. Are you aware of this
I
development?
haven't seen those particular reports, but I think we've been reporting regularly on the deteriorating situation in the West Bank. If you can share your microphone with your neighbor.
Yes, my name is Paula Dupré-Levias. I'm with Geneva Solutions, coming from Geneva. I wanted to ask a little bit about the UNAT initiative, and the Workstream 3 report just dropped just a few days after Workstream 2. I'm just wondering, I mean, in this latest report, we have rather complex sort of long-term proposals that would need quite some time to be implemented. I'm just wondering, how long this will take. There's going to be, in the Workstream report, it's said that the Secretary General will be announcing actions to be taken. Wanted to know when that would happen. And also, I'd like to know whether the UN still expects the US to be contributing soon.
Well, we expect every member state to pay their dues. On your first question, the Secretary General will present the report in person to the General Assembly to the membership right after the high-level week. He wanted to share the report with them in writing before, and it will obviously on things that he can do, he will move as quickly as possible. But as you well know, a lot of this is in the hands of member states, including of shifting posts, shifting structures. So that will take some time, but the Secretary General is determined to move on this as quickly as possible. David, Ahmed, then Dennis.
Thanks, Steph. On the two-state solution, there are now 150 some odd countries, and I've asked this question before, but I would love to hear in simple terms, what does it actually mean moving forward? Having a recognized Palestinian state, we all know that it is not a state by definition of what the UN is in terms of borders, in terms of a government. So what does it mean?
Well, let's, good luck trying to get a simple answer out of any question asked in this organization. The recognition is a bilateral issue, right? So member states recognize each other on a bilateral basis. The issue of membership in this organization and the requirements for membership is a separate issue. I think what it all means, I mean, in a way, it's a powerful symbol of our determination of the majority of member states of where they would like the situation to go. But it obviously has a legal impact on the bilateral relations between two states. Thank you.
Okay, Steph, on the same point on the two-state solution, the recognition of the state of Palestine. So if 150 countries, which they represent 77.7% of the member states, decide that this is, we recognize this entity as a state, they will put, I'm assuming there's going to happen a triggering for a process at the Council, Security Council, which is going to be vetoed, and then it will go to the GA, like we had with the status of an observer state. What will be the situation that there is 150 nations vote to change the status of Palestine into a full member from an observer member? Since they already on bilateral level,
you know how much I love to walk down the hypothetical path with you. I can tell you that the charter is clear on the path to membership. It is in the hands of the member states. Any other change in status or any other solutions that may be found is up to member states, but I'm not going to go there. Dennis.
When does UNSG plan to meet Mr. Lavrov, and what topics does he want to touch upon?
It will be Thursday afternoon, if I'm not mistaken. What day is the foreign minister speaking? Okay, I think it will be Thursday after late afternoon. He is speaking, and will not surprise you if I tell you that they will speak on issues of mutual concern, and I'm sure the list is long. Yes, sir.
Does the Secretary? Sorry, I'm John Haltwinger from Foreign Policy Magazine. Does the Secretary General have concerns about democratic backsliding in the United States under the Trump administration? This General Assembly is occurring under the backdrop of political violence, concerns about censorship and the free press in the United States. These are values that the UN promotes and pushes for countries to uphold. The U.S. is the host nation of UNGA, of the UN headquarters. Is this a concern for the Secretary General?
I think the Secretary General has been vocal in expressing his concern at the wrong direction in which globally issues having to do with human rights, freedom of the press have been going. And I think that's one, he spoke about on the anniversary of the Charter a few weeks ago, saying that the UN Charter, the Universal Declaration of Human Rights are not an a la carte menu, and they need to be taken as a whole by every member state who's signed on to them. Go, and then welcome back.
Thank you. So the fact that the Palestinian delegation couldn't get a visa, is it something acceptable for you? Or do you
That is what?
Is it something acceptable for you?
No, I mean we've expressed our deep concern about the decision. I think we said it is deeply regrettable, and moreover, we've taken it up directly with the host country. But the situation is what it is.
So you consider this as a serious breach?
Yes, it is. It goes against the headquarters agreement, which I think is Article 11 of the headquarters agreement, which says in layman's term that the U.S. has a duty to facilitate the travel to the United States of people who have business in front of the United Nations.
The SG will complain about that too.
We have our legal
President
counsel
Trump
and others
tomorrow.
have been in touch directly with the U.S. government, and it is something that has been taken up by the Committee on Host Country Relations. please. Go ahead. Sorry. Yes, go ahead.
Yes, I wanted to ask, so if you're a Palestinian and you're right now living in a Palestinian recognized state, what does that mean as far as being a Palestinian refugee? And what does that mean as far as UNRWA's work in the region?
Well, UNRWA's mandate is given to it by the General Assembly, and I think UNRWA is a band-aid, and they've said so themselves, to be until there's been a settlement on this issue for good. Yes, please go ahead.
The General Assembly going to adopt another resolution this afternoon on Palestine?
I do not. I think they've already adopted the New York Declaration, but member states will do what member states do. So we'll see. On that note, enjoy the week. Sorry, Evelyn, did you have a question?
I wanted to ask about the Central African Republic. Is Wagner Group still active there, or does it have a Russian successor?
That's not a question I can answer, but I can tell you there are a number of foreign armed elements there. Thank you. Have a good week. If you need any help,